Well, that's pretty freaky.
So that opening scene, just quickly touch on the subversive elements within the genre that you pulled off. You know, you even pull it, say in the dialogue, that Mike is in El Salvador, and in 1983, shooting something that is sympathetic to the rebels in El Salvador, and then you draw it full circle to the end with the resistance, with even parallel shots, was pretty sneaky.
Bookending is what we do. One of the things that we didn't mention too is that the Blu-ray, as the DVD, is in 1:8:5. Wasn't in the old TV ratio of 3:4, and that was by design. We filmed it to be seen in 1:8:5, the way it is here. And yeah, and I was a little prescient. I had a feeling eventually TVs would get bigger. And also my pilot for The Incredible Hulk had been released overseas as a foreign theatrical movie by Universal. And I thought, oh my God, they just cut it down and took heads and stuff off. So I said, let's shoot it for 1:8:5. We'll protect for TV so it won't look bad and there won't be microphones in the shot. But it really was filmed to be seen the way that it is seen on the DVD and now on this brilliant Blu-ray.
And what you see is cinematic. And to think that that was, you know, like when I experienced that on a 13-inch TV, it looked nothing like that at all. So this is, you're really seeing it like this for the first time. I mean, the DVD was also in widescreen, but the fidelity on this is quite incredible.
And we just want to quickly get in front of this a little bit. You know, there's a lot of fans online who are very passionate about V, and they love it, which is great, but we're getting some flack about, hey, shouldn't this be in 4:3? And like when we went in to do it, our boss, George Feltenstein, is very, very into as originally intended, and he's very, very, very into correct aspect ratios. And right in the file on V, it says what Kenneth wanted. And then George actually reached out to Kenneth.
George called me and said, did you really shoot this in 1:8:5? And I said, yes, George, shoot it, do it in 1:8:5. That's the way it needs to be. So for anybody who was disappointed that, you know, get an old CRT TV screen and you can play it and see what it looks like.
Where?
How did you come around to casting Mark?
Desperation, you know.
No, actually,
I had read a lot of actors for the role of Donovan and couldn't find somebody that really clicked, and we were down to the last week before we were supposed to start filming on Monday, and somebody said, hey, what about that guy in Beastmaster? And I said, I never saw Beastmaster. He said, well, he's named Mark Singer. I said, I know Mark Singer. I saw him do Petruchio in The Taming of the Shrew and took everybody's head off in San Francisco. And
totally the same thing.
Yes, exactly. So Mark came in. Do you remember the casting day?
I remember the casting day very well. And by the way, good evening, everybody. It's not evening?
Morning.
This
still
is
up, huh?
This is Detroit, right? I just got back from Spain, by the way, where V is the biggest thing still in the history of that country's television. And every young man of a certain age, and all of the women too, at 6 o'clock in the evening, repaired to their television sets and watched V, I mean throughout the country. Everybody pretended to be Mike Donovan, every male, and every female pretended to be Julie. And that says something. I'll get to the casting in just a moment, but it says something to why we're here, and that is the vision of the artist. Because here's Ken Johnson, who created this thing how many years ago?
35.
There you go. But who's counting? And he had a vision for it. Not only a vision for the idea, not only a vision for the execution, but a vision for its presentation, what he wanted it to look like. And here we are 35 years later, and he's still the artist that says, I want it to look and present a certain way. I think that's an extraordinary thing, and much kudos to him for that.
Thank you, Mark.
I see some lizard men in the audience.
Yes, people are scouting the audience. Yes.
I think that guy threw me up against a bulkhead. As far as the casting is concerned, it was the strangest casting process that I've ever experienced. Wait a minute, I'll wait till the...
You could be waiting forever. Keep going.
Okay. Anyway, it was a very strange casting process. Wait. Oh, he ate somebody. There we go. It was a very strange casting process. I went into a very small office, and usually what happens is there are a bunch of people around in a larger room, and you stand out in the center, and you perform your role. But in this case, it was a very small office. Brandon Tartikoff, the head of CBS, was there at the time, and Ken Johnson, and maybe one other person, crammed into this tiny little space about the size of a janitor's closet. And Ken Johnson went like this, said, "This is Mark, shake hands with everybody." Well, there were only 3 of us. I said hello to him, and hello to Ken again, as though I'd never seen him before. And he said, "Okay, now here we go. We're going to read the first scene. You be Mike Donovan, and I'll be the other guy." And he went like this, "Aha, Mike Donovan, what's going on with you?" and then I went like this, and he said, and then he says, "Oh, yeah." And then he said, "Aha, Mike Donovan, so you think, but what about so-and-so?" And then I went, and he said, "Well, then he goes," and he went like this for about 5 minutes, and then he said, "Isn't he great? Go on, get out of here." And he pushed me out the door.
I didn't want him to blow it, you know?
He knew,
Because I knew he could do it.
he just knew he would do it right. So there we go.
Mark did it right.
Yeah. No one has handled a TV camera more like a weapon than you. I'm like, journalism is cool. I gotta get myself into that.
That is, that's another one of those underlying portions of the story, which is that telling the story correctly, observing it correctly, reporting it correctly, is a noble profession, and those are the heroes. Those of us, all of us in the room, all of us everywhere, that tell the story correctly and tell it honestly.
Well, speaking of the story, we've got another little clip of what happens when the visitors first come to land on Earth.
Yeah, a little quick setup. There was a high school band was going to greet them in the script that I had written, and at the production meeting, they said, "Well, what's the band going to play?" And I said, "I don't know, Stars and Stripes Forever or something." And my assistant, Shannon Monahan, said, "It ought to be Star Wars." And I said, "That's brilliant."
Here we go.